Hey everybody, Alan Cox here. Today I want to talk about something that was announced back in Microsoft Build, and that is the inclusion of SharePoint SAM with Microsoft for 365, Copilot for 365. Essentially, if a SharePoint administrator has a license for Copilot, it activates the SharePoint SAM or SharePoint Advanced Management subscription. Now, what is SAM? SAM is basically some advanced controls, advanced governance around Microsoft SharePoint Online. And specifically, I want to focus on a feature within this advanced management that relates to Copilot. And that is that we can now limit the ability of Copilot from accessing specific SharePoint sites called site restriction. But I want to be clear that the it's a bit misleading because actually what it is SharePoint SAM, the site restriction or the content restriction, is restricting the discovery of content by Copilot. There's a slight difference, and I think it's very important to talk about, and so that's going to be our focus for the discussion today. So let's get to it. Here I am in my SharePoint Admin Center here, and I'm logged in under the persona of Leah Wilson. We'll look at a couple different personas here, but Leah has a Copilot for 365 license and is also a SharePoint administrator, has the SharePoint admin role. And so if we scroll down here to Advanced Management, we'll see that Leah is presented with an indication that the Advanced Management subscription is enabled. And this is just simply because she has a 365 license applied to her account, and also and is a SharePoint admin. So we can go into this Advanced Management here. We click this here we can go into, advanced management, what exactly it is. And so as we scroll down here, we can see that we can manage some content sprawl, we can prevent some oversharing. And I'm going to focus on this area here, control Copilot access to content, and exactly how that works and what that means. And so we'll look at that here. So there's quite a few things we can do here from the governance side that's really just pretty cool. But I'm going to focus here on the site level access restrictions. So we're going to click in here, and we'll see that use this setting with team sites to restrict access to only the connected team or group. Organ-wide settings, we can show the restricted site access to allow admins to turn off site level restrictions and so forth. But we're going to focus on something very specific here. So as we go in here, we're just going to allow access restriction. We're just turning it on. Now, nothing really happens here just yet because this is at the site level, and that's an important point here. So here's where we get into. So I'm gonna go ahead and there. So now I've turned that on, which means the toggle inside of the site is available. So we're gonna go here, and I'm gonna I have a hub, and this hub is pretty simple, and it's just template. But it's just a portal. So that's my landing page. And on that landing page, I have a site called this CBG HR site. So if we look at this portal, which I actually have open over here, but if we look at this, we can see that we have an HR department. And that HR department is this HR site. And in that department site, if we go in there, we'll just pop in there real quick. If we go in there, we'll see that we've got some HR documents, some policies, and so forth. And so handbook, acceptable use policies, PTO policies, etc. So that's kind of what we're working with. Now, on this particular site, not the portal, but the HR site, focusing just on that. If I were to click here and go to the settings, we'll see here, restrict access from restrict content from Microsoft 365 Copilot. We click this little informational button here. Restrict this site's content from appearing in 365 Copilot, SharePoint agents, and organization-wide search results when the setting is on, etc. The content will only be discoverable through the site's search box by groups with access. So it's important to note that by turning this on doesn't restrict permissions, doesn't change the permissions. If someone has access to SharePoint, they can still open SharePoint, this site. It doesn't change any of that. But it's a bit misleading here. And by the way, this is indicating that this is a pro level. It requires additional functionality or subscription and so forth. And we get that with SAM through our Copilot license. Now, I have this turned on for the for this particular site. So let's do this. Now that we know that that's turned on, I'm going to try a few things. We're going to take a look and see how this actually works. So first of all, I'm going to go into my Copilot. You see, I'm going to go to my Copilot chat experience here as Leah. Okay. And we're gonna look at something. So remember, this HR site is turned on, but I'm just in the chat experience here, and I'm gonna say, what is CBG's? That's my organization here. What is CBG's PTO policy? I'm gonna see if it just pulls this out from this particular SharePoint site. Okay. So here's what it pulled, and where did it pull it from? Now remember, I'm logged in here under Leah, but it pulled it from that particular SharePoint site. Okay, the CBG PTO policy. If we were to look at the documents here, we'll see this PTO policy here. Well, but we told Copilot not to return results from that particular site. But why is that happening? If we told it to restrict content from SharePoint or from Copilot, why is this happening? Furthermore, if we look at the permissions for this particular site, we'll see that site owner is Leah. Okay, site members is Alan Cox, me. So before we give you the answer, let's flip over and see what the experience is for me under my login. So here I'm in the admin center because I am an admin, but that's really kind of really doesn't make any difference here. I'm going to drop into my chat experience here. Let me do this. As signed in as myself, it's Alan, and we're gonna check this out. So I'm gonna ask the same question. What is CBG's PTO policy? Now, I looked into your request by CBG appeal by searching across internal files, chats, blah, blah, blah. Of 3 total file reserves specifically addressed to PTO CBG, here's what I found. Notice it did not pull anything. I do have some additional policies around an organization called Contoso, but there is nothing. It's possible that the policy is stored under a different name or acronym. So basically, it couldn't find it. Well, why could it find it under Leah, but not me? The reason is simple. what this setting does when we're talking about this setting is, I said it's misleading. It kind of is. It's not actually restricting the content from Copilot. It's not segregating Copilot information there. What it's actually doing is restricting discovery of the content. And here's why that is important. Leah has been to the site and has been to the documents and has accessed the information. Whereas me, Alan, has not been to that site, has not been to that particular site. So essentially, and if I were to go there, I can see I can access it just fine. Okay, I can access all this information. I can open up this PTO policy, right? I have permissions, but why didn't Copilot reveal it? The reason is because what that setting is actually doing is restricting the discovery of the data. If you've already been there and discovered it, Copilot says, well, you've already seen the information. Why would I restrict you from it? Now I've been in the documents. I've been in this SharePoint site. I've been in the into the document library. Let's see if Copilot will now respond with information from that particular site, now that I have discovered it on my own. I don't know that it will this fast. I'm in real time here, but we're going to take a look and see if it does. So we're looking at this kind of together, but I can tell you that within some period of time, Copilot would absolutely return results back on that particular SharePoint site because I've discovered it on my own. So we'll take a look and see what if this returns. Yeah, and sure enough, because I've discovered it now, it is absolutely finding it. So what is the takeaway from this? The takeaway is that this setting, when we go in and we configure this setting is really designed for a rollout of SharePoint, and you want to restrict access to the SharePoint site prior to someone getting access to that site. Because really, when you think about it, if someone's already accessed the SharePoint site, does it really make sense to limit Copilot from accessing that site? They have access to it. They've already been there. They've already seen the documents. So, I mean, you can control the governance around it in a lot of different ways, but does it really make sense to say, well, Copilot, you're off limits, even though the user has already been there, has already seen the documents, has already seen the files? It doesn't really make sense. And that never made sense to me about that setting until I got in there and started really digging into what it's about. And that is what it's about, is that it is designed for kind of a slow rollout of SharePoint where you've not yet given people access to it. They've not yet been to it, but you want to kind of segment what Copilot can access. If you truly want Copilot to be hands-off of a SharePoint site, then of course, there's a lot of ways you can do that through Purview, through labeling policies and other things. But the easiest way is to control it with permissions and who has access to it. Because what you have access to, Copilot has access to. But this is a way that we can prevent the discovery of information if a user is unaware that they have access to it, has not been to the site, has not already discovered it on their own. That is what this setting is actually doing. So I hope this has been helpful for you today, and I would like to thank you for watching. And by the way, if this has been helpful for you, be sure and like the video and subscribe. It really helps us out. But anyway, until next time, we'll see you soon. Thanks.